This is sunrise over Washington Commanders camp. You can call it the calm before the storm. Fans have been lining up since 5 a.m.-ish. Thousands are expected to come out here and watch their team get some practice in to see the Commanders players as they walk out onto the field. Starting a bit early today, trying to get the work in and get out before the heat really hits here in Ashburn. A high of 91 expected, but that number could go higher. So they want to get the work in. The fans are out here cheering. They're ready to see some practice. It's time for us to get to work, too. That's a pretty picture. All right, that's Had a Storm. I'm Jay Harris. Also joining us here on the set, NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck and Commanders reporter John Keim. Good to have you guys here.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah. Hey, this is familiar territory. You know this guy had
five
starts for Washington, right? You were here.
Hey, not quite the optimism that they have here now, let's be honest. Okay?
But, you know, you ushered the franchise from Steve Spurrier into Joe Gibbs. I mean, that was all you.
Good job, Tim. Good job.
Hey, we're here now. Okay?
So he's been through a couple of camps with Washington. So we're going to take you on the field. We're going to show you what's happening. We got to visit with Dan Quinn a few moments ago. He's obviously going to run some red zone stuff here for the thousands of fans. So walk us through what we're seeing here, Tim.
Well, listen, hey, right now, very important part of start of practice, quarterback center exchange. It's funny seeing the big guys walk out onto the field. The first thing was they all commented on how hot it was. Like that was the first thing for the big guys. And typically what happens prior to your practice, you kind of go through the script. Like these are the things that we are going to run, reminders, things like that, because you don't have all day to run a gazillion plays. So what you do is you want to make the most out of the reps that you get. And I think it's one of the things you try to do is just like the build up and walk through things before you actually run them in a more live environment.
I mean, you mentioned the big guys, and John, I mean, pass protection is something that this team is really, you got to protect this guy. Here's your franchise, Jayden Daniels. They brought in Laramie Tunsil, drafted Josh Connerly.
Signed Laramie, traded for Laramie, drafted Josh, but they also moved Brandon Coleman inside the guard where he's probably best suited. So what they have now is, one, you're protecting your most valuable asset in Jayden Daniels. Two, you now have a more athletic line, which fits with the Cliff Kingsbury offense, getting out on screens, a lot of pulling action. So I think it can benefit Jayden Daniels for protection, but the run game and the screen game in particular.
Hey, that screen game, that would be Deebo Samuels, right?
Yeah. Tell us
that.
I mean, I would imagine lots of excitement with having him here on this team in the camp.
Well, for sure, because he can do things that they haven't had guys do what he does, right? They had some guys last year, Gammy Brown, Ahmed Zacchaeus. He can do those things better. And I think what they're really looking for him is, again, on those screens, the underneath passes, break the tackles, get the yards after the catch. They have guys who can stretch the field like Terry McLaurin, but they don't have that underneath guy who can provide what Deebo Samuel, they hope, can.
Jayden Daniels, there are areas where he says he can improve. He's dedicated to that. Went back to California, worked with his longtime coach since he was 12, and it's kind of been his hallmark is improving his game. Where do you see that he can take the next step?
You know what's funny is when you look at him, and oftentimes you see young quarterbacks, you can say, well, okay, this is an area where he can really improve. There's really not a clear deficiency in his game whatsoever. I really believe that he's the closest thing in the NFL right now to Lamar Jackson. But I would also say that he is way further along than Lamar Jackson as a passer to the start of his career. And Lamar Jackson came out of a college offense where he had played under center. It was kind of a traditional offense at Louisville. And where Jayden Daniels, comes in, kind of thrown right into the mix. And look, as a runner was outstanding, a passer from inside the pocket was outstanding. The game seemed slow to him as a rookie, even in 2-minute situations, which we saw a bunch of last year for him. So, Hannah, I really think it's more about just improving in every facet of your game, not necessarily saying, hey, this is an area where, hey, third down or red zone, that we just have to be completely better because we were behind a year ago.
So fine-tuning for the only rookie in history to pass for over 3,500 yards and rush for over 250 yards in the season. Man, team's leading rusher last year.
That's not bad.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's a great comparison.
Yeah. John, let's talk about the guy you mentioned a few moments ago, Terry McLaurin. Not on the field, here at Commanders camp, holding in while dealing with that ankle injury. So it seems to be trending in the right direction as they continue to talk. What is Terry's impact on this offense?
goodness, it's huge because, again, he gives them something that they don't have, which is the ability to stretch the field, make contested catches down the field. He had 13 touchdown catches last year, by far his career best, and it's no coincidence that he got it playing with Jayden Daniels, right? He was also way more effective in the red zone last year because they used him more and because of the way he is with Jayden Daniels, such a great rapport, but he also is an emotional leader. When he gets the ball early in the game, their offense is different. When he doesn't, it's for some reason it seems to bog down a little bit. He's a passionate player, so he can, the firing guys up with some of those short catches that you can break a tackle, get some big plays out of him. That's what they need. That's what they get from him. That's what they would miss if he weren't here.
They got a couple of guys with Debo, and then Austin Eckler is here as well. I mean, 1 and 2 in yards after the catch. As a quarterback, what does that mean for Jayden?
Well, I think what it means for Jayden is you look at the talent a year ago. I don't think there's any question that they looked at the receiver position and they said, and really just playmaker, kind of players on the offense and said, we need to improve this, right? I think that when you look at the players last year, Olamide Zaccheaus, guys like that, I think Jayden Daniels did a remarkable job of making the guys around him better. Now you add proven players like Eckler and Debo Samuel to go along with guys, especially when you're talking about players that catch the ball in between the numbers or in between the hash marks, and you have Zach Ertz as well. That's what you're trying to do. But that goes along with having a true number 1 wide receiver that can play outside. So those moves were made with the expectation that Terry McLaurin was going to be a very big part of the offense. So they're great additions, and they're going to be helpful. They're productive, proven players, but they are better when they operate inside, and they need somebody to be able to play outside the numbers, and that's Terry McLaurin.
In the past, they came here for money, right? Like they were going to get a big payday if you're at the end of your career.
Kind of like Tim here.
It's a good call, John. Can't hide it. Let's go.
But that's what they come here for, is one more payday. Now they're coming here because of Jayden Daniels. Like as Von Miller said the other day, you're not leaving Josh Allen to just go anywhere. So you have a quarterback in Jayden Daniels that's going to be a magnet for people. Then Dan Quinn's reputation helps as well. The way he takes care of veterans, giving them the vet days off, but also they added like certain recovery treatment sessions during the season that that you have to go to that really helps take care of the body. He's very cognizant of that, so that helps as well. And then there are other connections. For example, with Bobby Wagner, Ken Norton Jr. was his linebackers coach in Seattle, so that was a connection as well. So it's all of that. There are way more magnets to attract people here than ever before. Again, before it was how much you're going to pay me. Some people would say you can't pay me enough.
It's still how much you're going to pay me.
Sure.
But which Mike McLaurin isn't in his uniform today. But I think the point you're making is exactly right, which is the culture under Dan Quinn and the staff that he has hired, and then the hope that is there with Jayden Daniels. Like those two things go a long way. The season is a marathon. There is a lot of work that goes into it. And so when you have those two things, it is attractive to veteran players, proven players, and it's attractive to guys that, quite honestly, feel like they have a chance to win.
I mean, Dan just told us moments ago, too, he is working in concert with Adam Peters, the GM. I mean, they really work together. This is a team in terms of who they're bringing in. And then with Dan, having undergone really a 360 evaluation of himself and his coaching style, how would you describe the culture that he's established here?
Well, it's incredibly different than the past. In the past...
By the way, love the shirt, see? Raise hell.
He's got a lot of T-shirts and sayings. But in the past, it was always like the front office and the coaching staff weren't always aligned on guys. They would bring in players that the coach would say, what are we going to do with him? And then they would sign them back. Guys that the coaches didn't want, they would re-sign them. So when you have that, it's hard to put together a cohesive group. With Quinn, that's not the case. So one of the things you talk about the 360 too, though, he gives his assistant coaches way more responsibility than he was, like say in Atlanta. So he'll have the assistant coaches go up and present their game plan or their plan to the entire team. It could be a tight ends coach, could be anybody, just to try to prepare and develop. And that's one area where I think he said he's really changed from previously.
Why has Cliff Kingsbury been a good fit here?
Well, I think he's a really smart offensive coach. I think that would be the first thing that I would say. Is just in general, his exposure to running offenses that can be productive. Touched on the element of the screen game. Talked to, when you look at the quick passing game, all of those things, he's got a depth of knowledge and exposure to. I originally thought it was a unique pairing. You have a defensive-minded head coach, who's going to have the mentality that most defensive-minded head coaches have. Like, let's shorten the game, let's slow it down. We don't need to run a gazillion plays on offense. Do it that way. But I think that Cliff has matured as a play caller and play designer. He's not the only one giving input, I would say it that way. And so I think, between, that growth, Dan Quinn's growth as a head coach was just referenced, and then the fact that you have a superstar at quarterback. Like, that helps.
That's it. That's your
That's a great place to start.
Yes,
I mean, really.
Yes.
John, you're here every day. You get the vibes. You talk to people. What are the expectations, especially after last season's success? The expectations coming into this season.
I mean, the expectations are to do it again. And so one of the things that stood out to me, like, again, in the past, the year they had, there are a lot of people who would somewhat live in that, right? Like, hey, we did this, we're going to automatically do this.
Right.
And this year, you hear from them players. Zach Ertz said it the other day, I don't want to talk about last year anymore. So I think they're trying, like, they were really good last year, despite what anybody else thought outside of here thought of them. They were pretty resolute in their confidence in themselves. So, like, week to week, it was like, what do we have to do this week? That's what is their mindset. And I think it's the same thing now. Like, last year is last year. This is a different team. You have to get better. And I think that's where those veterans help, having not just veterans, but players who have played at a high level. Wagner, Ertz, now Von Miller, guys who still want to win, but know how to prepare to get there. And how do you handle that kind of success? Those guys have been through it, and that's how they can help those young guys.
I mean, their schedule coming up this season, just on a practical level, is the 8th hardest. Seattle, by the way, coming in, DQ's former team.
Yeah.
In week 9, they're going to go to Madrid in week 11. They have Cowboys on Christmas Day. They have 5 primetime games. So, when you have success, things get a little tougher the next season in just that regard, just logistically, right, Tim?
Absolutely, they do. And that's why I think the veteran leadership becomes so important, because you're going to face some adversity. And it might be a string of a few losses, or it might be, a really tough loss or an injury and then a road trip. There is something about veteran players like Von Miller and Bobby Wagner. Like, they're wired differently. Guys that play, well into their late 30s at positions like that, they're different. They have an endurance, a mental toughness endurance that most players don't have. Now, it doesn't mean that young players can't learn from them and develop that, because I think that does happen for kind of the next wave that do that. But that's why guys like that are so important when you play on a team where the expectations are extremely high.
Yeah, Zach Ertz, too. By the way, we're talking to all of those guys, so thank you for teeing that up.
Good job, Tim.
For
Saw
us,
the rundown.
Tim. You saw the rundown. and kudos to both of you guys for basically making stretching interesting, because that's what we've just watched here. We promise they will come out and run some plays. As fascinating as this is.
I actually saw Cliff Kingsbury going through the dynamic stretch there, so he's obviously trying to get after
There
it.
you go. Offensive coordinator who's done such a great job, and a great pairing with Jayden Daniels, and their relationship is getting stronger and stronger.
The guys are out there getting after it on the field, starting a little early today because the temperature is supposed to get up to about 91. I figure we get the players out here, get them some work in, and get them back in before it gets too hot. So we are also early, so we can get our work in too. Storm, Tim Hasselbeck, John Keim.
Tim, are you just thinking about the two-a-days back in the day and how easy these guys have it these
Here's a couple of things. I'm definitely not one of those old guys that's like, back when we did it, it was twice a day. I'm definitely not one of those guys. Because everyone needs to realize, we're looking at the quarterbacks. That's the difficulty of their day. Look how much fun Jayden Daniels is having, okay? That's the difficulty of their day. Now, the big guys, the 300-pounders in this heat with pads on, They don't do this. They don't react like that at a training camp practice. Quarterbacks have it easy.
Love Jayden Daniels and his energy out there today. A couple thousand fans. I mean, they were lining up at 5 this morning. I mean, John, can you just give us a sense of how crazy this area is for this team coming off its best season in over 3 decades?
It's still a little bit surreal, Hannah, to see the transformation. It's not just the franchise, but the fan base embracing them again. And I think like last year was such a magical year for them because you get Jayden Daniels, you start to win, but you also had all these crazy last-second finishes that really grabbed everybody, and then you have the playoff run. So this is the first time in a long time where I think it's like there's legitimate hope, not just for this year, but long term. I mean, you can go way back to 2013 when Robert Griffin III was here, but they didn't follow up that year with success. A lot of issues around that whole situation. This year, this time it's different. So there's way more hope, I think, with the fan base than in a long, long time.
We've been watching camp all morning, watching them out on the field, and you guys were talking about something that they were doing on the field. It looked like a lot of fun.
So basically, right after stretch, Dan Quinn brings the whole entire team over to a bunch of bags. So we were showing it as we went to break.
Right.
And it's like a competitive, fast-paced tempo, just bag drills. And they obviously did it last year. And, you know, sometimes people wonder, like, Bobby Wagner's 35 years old. Is he really, before going through a 2-hour practice, going to sprint through bag drills? But what Dan Quinn has done is he's kind of a bit of a Pete Carroll model of finding ways to compete all the time. And so they will film the bag drills. And you think, well, why are they filming the bag drills? Because when you go to the team meeting tonight, they might pop up some film of the bag drills. And so it doesn't matter if you're Bobby Wagner or an undrafted college free agent that's trying to make the roster. What do you look like going through those bag drills to start practice? What is your compete level to start practice and show like, yeah, I'm ready to get better? And I think it's just one of these things that as coaches learn more about trying to, you know, how do you motivate players, and how do you motivate some players that are making a ton of money and some players that are just trying to make a roster spot in a similar fashion. I think it just kind of shows the growth as a head coach.
Looking at the fans here, and got some nice shots of Tress Way, got some kicks off. So
we didn't see a lot of that last year early on.
We did not see a lot of that early on. What we did see was a lot of Jayden Daniels. You referenced some thrilling moments. Listen, that walk-off touchdown against the Bears was certainly a hallmark of their season. The question going into this season, do they have a championship-level defense? You know, coming off an NFC championship game where they allow 55 points, you know, allowing 200-plus running yards against the Eagles in all 3 of those meetings.
Right. That's obviously the big question, Hannah. So what they did this offseason, they went hard on both sides of the line of scrimmage, on defense in particular. So when you look at their defensive line, they added Javon Kinlaw, they added Dietrich Wise, they obviously went out and got Von Miller the other day. Eddie Goldman is a run stopper inside there. So they got bigger inside to help against the run, to help guys like Bobby Wagner stay clean so he can get to the ball. Their edge setters were not consistent enough last year. That's why Wise is here. So they really focused hard on that. And then the last part, other parts, Trey Amos, the rookie corner, has looked really sharp in the spring and in these early practices.
Their second-round pick.
Second-round pick corner. He combined, if Marshawn Lattimore can stay healthy, that's a big question always for him, then it makes their secondary that much better.
And of course, they lost Dante Fowler Jr., so it's 10.5 sacks. That was their sack leader last year.
But Dan Quinn, the defensive line coach by trade. I mean, that's
exactly.
You know, and so typically what happens with coaches like that, not that every coach doesn't value the line of scrimmage, but when you're a defensive line coach by trade, you've had people run the football on you, you know, more than you would like them to run the football on you. You have a really smart but older inside linebacker in Bobby Wagner. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it goes back to the point of front office and coaching staff being aligned in terms of who are the players we want to bring in here and why.
What is there about Jayden Daniels that makes you think that he's not going to endure that dreaded sophomore slump?
Yeah, well, first I would say, you know, C.J. Stroud had a great rookie season, but the numbers weren't insane. He was not somebody that ran much. The Houston Texans were doing a tremendous job that year of turning the football over. The receivers were healthy. So I think there were a bunch of different factors that you can point to C.J. Stroud's sophomore season and say, nah, that wasn't really it. Jayden Daniels, I think, is completely different from the standpoint of what he did to contribute to their success. And, that may sound like a slight at C.J. Stroud. It's not. It's really to point at how remarkable Jayden Daniels was and some of the 2-minute situations we referenced in terms of that drama. The game looked slow to him. What he looked like as a runner, it looked like he was gliding and everybody else was running in mud. He is a way more explosive runner than I was anticipating him being. And then his comfort from inside the pocket is remarkable.
891 rushing yards last season.
And then look, he was doing it with receivers that, assuming they'd get things figured out with Terry McLaurin. He has a better supporting cast this year than he had a year ago.
And they kept it close. When they kept it close, they won games. They were 9-4 in one-score games in 2024. That includes the playoffs, coming off 4-6 mark the year before. So something worked well.
Absolutely. I think the other thing to mention with that, too, is the return of the entire coaching staff and an experienced play caller in Cliff Kingsbury. And the C.J. Stroud, he had Bobby Slowick, who was not as experienced as Cliff Kingsbury, and obviously there were some issues because they got rid of him after the season. But I think that's also a major point. The quarterback coaches are the same. Everybody on the staff is the same, and I think it allows them to then take what he did at the end of last year, same voice, and have that comfort level and proceed with it. Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury and quarterbacks coach Tavita Pritchard would go through walkthroughs 3 days a week at 6 a.m. in the bubble. And I'd have coaches tell me, I'm getting here at 6:30 and they're coming out of the bubble. So, there's that. They can build off all of that. There's that familiarity and such a good relationship that I think, Tim, that would help a lot.
Yeah, listen, you're comfortable with somebody. When you're in rooms or when you're in meeting rooms, you get to say, look, I like this, I don't like that. I understand you've had success running it, but get it out of the plan, that type of stuff. And I also think that it speaks to Daniel's intelligence, because oftentimes too much meeting, too much information can bog a player down. It certainly has not bogged him down.
I want to give Cliff Kingsbury some props for the hat
that
he's wearing. I don't know if that's from his Texas background or whatnot, but he has been sporting that fabulous chapeau. But the other quarterback that you see in there is Marcus Mariota.
Huge.
And we have heard, John, that he was a great mentor for Jayden Daniels. What's behind that relationship?
So even last year in the spring, I would hear from people close to Jayden who would say, Marcus has been great for him. So it's just, he was the number 2 pick. He's gone through a lot of things in his career. He was, similar backgrounds, right, as far as Heisman and all that. So that helps. You can relate to him. But he's also just been really good for him, just on the sidelines they had a game against Atlanta. So it's down near the end of the game, and there's a timeout, and he goes on the field. It's hey, just basically be yourself. Go make the play that you can make, right? And just to help him. Whether or not Daniels needed that, I think it helps to have a guy who can come in there and help you just relax, another voice for you.
It's really helpful. Sometimes that you're a translator. You get something from the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach who's it sounded like that, but what he really means is this. And then I think because of Marcus's demeanor, and to your point in terms of
because he's
John,
so kind of laid back.
He's laid back.
Really,
and he's unselfish, right? And I think that there's an element of it for Jayden to say, look, I can really trust him. He wants to push me and compete with me and get me better. He's also not trying to undercut me. He's not trying to take my job. I think there's a very, different dynamic in that setting that can be really, really helpful because, look, Marcus Mariota, he's won playoff games. He
also was a very high draft pick, so he understands the pressure that comes with.
So I think that just being able to identify with some of the things you're going through.
Yeah, he's been through a lot.
John, Tim, it's been a lot of fun. We are watching Commanders practice, not the 2 days that our good friend Tough Tim went through, but this nice early practice here. Santana Moss, who got a very special honor today. You, my friend, are going to become the 52nd member of the Ring of Fame.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
So good.
Wow.
Just found out moments ago.
How'd you find out?
I mean, we was actually taping our show, and after the show, BC say about to wrap everything up, and then B. Mitch get to rambling about, me and Tanner friends, and I'm proud to say, and I'm like, what are you proud to say? You about to have a job for the next 10 years or something?
There you are.
And before you know it, man, he just said he's going to be up in the Raptors, and instantly, bucket of water, man, I go to tearing up, man. It's what a feeling. What a surprise and what a feeling.
So for those of you that don't know, Santana is one of the hosts of Command Center, so a podcast.
Yes.
So he's very, very involved with the franchise. But when you think of joining Gary Clark and Art Monk and Charlie Taylor in the Ring of Fame, to be part of that group specifically, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I think, growing up, I heard so much about Monk and Gary Clark. I always kid with Gary talking about you made the All-Madden team when I used to play Madden, or you made the All-Tecmo Bowl team. And so when I finally got here in 2005, one of the first persons to reach out to me was Gary Clark. And he always told me, he said, Tanner, if you leave this place when you're done, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna come find you and bring you back, because that's the kind of waves that I was making, after year one or whatever. But just to hear my name today mentioned, saying I'm going to be put up in the Raptors, it's just a great feeling. I think one of the things that we take for granted, man, that you put so much hard work into what you're doing out there, and all you want to do is be noticed for it. And I think that's one of the things I cared less about, someone recognizing what I've done, because it's recorded, it's written, it's in writing, the stats are always going to be there. But to honestly be recognized for it and to have your name go up in the Raptors, it's like nothing else.
I want you to talk about yourself for a minute. How would you describe your career evolution here in Washington?
It was one of those things, man. I can't really describe it. I know one of the things that I get a great feeling just to hear the fans always tell me, man, regardless of what we did here, whether it was a bad season or a good year, 89 always showed up. And when they tell me that, who cares about anything else? Because that's what I went out to do. I tell them every time, I say, when I used to go into that end zone, get on that knee and say my prayer before the game, it was to let the man know who allowed me to do this. I'm finna go out here and represent him, my family name, and those guys who sitting in those seats that paid their hard-earned money to come out here and watch me. And so when you hear that gratification from them, then you know you did your job.
Yeah, third all-time in franchise history in receptions, fourth all-time in receiving yards. And yet, you referenced it earlier, a lot of down years here. And last year, this franchise had its best season in 33 years. From your perspective, what has it been like to watch that turnaround? It's
been like a rejuvenation. Like it was almost unreal last year. Every game came down to the wire. Every game. They're not finna pull this one out. They pulled it out. It was something that I never saw before in sports, and I've never been a part of. And everyone would say, well, you've been a part of that, Tanner, before. You got your name the Cowboy Killer because of that Monday night game.
That's a great name to have, by the way. Cowboy Killer.
But I'm saying, so to see us do that week after week after week after week, it wasn't luck. It was that these guys was prepared. They was prepared so well that when they got in those moments, it wasn't new. It wasn't something that they hadn't seen before, and that's a testament to the coaching staff. It's a testament to the ownership. That's a testament to those players that put in the work. And it brought something back that we had been looking forward to for a long time. So I'm hoping to see many more years
magic,
like that.
too,
no doubt.
Right? Spark confidence. What does that do? Like that walk-off against the Bears.
Yeah.
Like that incredible play that everybody around the country was going crazy
It has you yearning for more, and that's what these guys gave us, more week after week after week. So, but like I said before, that's not luck. You might get lucky once or twice, but you hear folks talk about it, say, oh, they can't win 6 games in a row. They won 6 games last year in the last minute of the game. That wasn't luck. That's because those guys were prepared for that moment. So I'm looking for them to win in a different fashion, but I'm also just looking forward to this season to see what they're going to have in store this year, because last year was just, like you said, magical.
When you look at this team, the offense in particular, the upgraded offensive line, and you see what Jayden did last year, what are you hoping for this time around?
Well, it brings you high hopes. I mean, no season is like the other. We always say that as players. We can't bank on what we did last year and just think it's going to be given to us this year. We have to go out there and put the hard work in. You have to go out there and do some of the things that they're doing now in training camp to even have a chance to have those moments. It's going to be different, but I'm not expecting anything out of the ordinary. I'm just expecting those guys who are well coached and that has been coached well to the point to where they're going to go out there and just do their job. They're going to go out there and handle their responsibilities of going out there and winning football games. And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but as long as you get the effort that they give and that we know they're going to give, because Dan Quinn is going to make sure they give that effort, then they have a great chance to win.
As we look at the quarterbacks, this is footage from earlier today, working out. Terry McLaurin is here. He is not practicing. Yeah, he's going on the physically unable to perform list and hoping to work with Adam Peters on a new contract. How absolutely critical is he for this team, in your estimation?
Respectfully, just pay him. I just want to see him here, man. It's nothing like seeing 1-7 out there. I think, you talking about me getting him to the Raptors, man. By the time he's left, he leaves here, he'll be in those Raptors with us. And it's just one of those things. This guy came in, not highly sought out. It's a third-round pick. They talked about how good he was because his team mostly. And from day one, he's showing us, man, that he's going to go out there and make sure he get the job done. So he has that same kind of, I guess you can say, he has a little bit of 89 in him when it comes to just how he goes about his business. And I love that about him. Always humble. He's always going to go out there and give it his all. And he's a hard worker. And so, to me, that's a testament to anybody who plays this game that should give anybody who has that bag, hey, they want to share it with him. So when it comes to ownership, I understand it's deeper than just paying somebody, but I know that these guys think the world of Terry like I do.